Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to another edition of The Mind Behind right here on Love Wrestling. As always, brought to you by RK Athletics. Make sure you give some time, give some love, and show them some support. Sorry, I was trying to make a pun on love there again, but it simply didn't work. Either way, show them some love. Head to RK Athletics 1 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and wherever you get your social media delights, I suppose. And thank you for supporting once again here on Love Wrestling. The social media usually is scrolling across the bottom when I'm doing my job. It's a rough start, but it's a great guest. It's lots of people in the comments. Ladies and gentlemen, joined by Kristen Ashley, one of the best as far as women's wrestling goes, whether it's advocating for it, whether it's journalists, whether it's anything that you sort of can put the box on as far as it goes. Kristen does it and does it well. It's great to see you, friend. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored.
I'm happy you're here. It's great to see you. Lots of people as excited as I am. Of course, Mr. Warren Hayes. Yeah, she is here to carry me. I saw your shots on Twitter. I'm proud to admit that my guests, I'm pretty good at selecting them. I like to think I can bring some guests who carry a show. And of course, Magsy. Hola to you too, friend. Wrestling Plug Inc. hopping in. The show is awesome, and Kristen is awesomer. You won't find any arguments from me, friend. And the Canadian Goose, honk, honk, honk. Great to see you, friends. If you have any questions for, like I said, one of the best in the biz, feel free to throw them in. We've got about half an hour. I know there's a lot of wrestling programming going on tonight, so thank you for spending some time on ours. And Kristen, as mentioned, it is great to have you on here. You have worked pretty well everywhere. There is a laundry list of sites you have written for, including your current work with the PWI and Bell to Bells. But let's start right at the beginning. I know you've talked about how you got into wrestling as a fan ad nauseum, but how did you get into professional wrestling as a journalist, content contributor, or whatever you choose to define yourself in this wild, wacky world of professional wrestling?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, actually. I was writing for a fan-sided NFL site called NFL Spin Zone. And the editor over there, Kevin Parvisi, he also was an editor for fan-sided DDT. And he had seen that I was like tweeting out about WWE stuff, and he then asked me, would you want to write for Daily DDT? And I said, sure. And then I left NFL altogether, and it's just been all wrestling since. So
yeah. The serendipity of it, right? Do you remember what you first wrote on?
I have no idea. I'd be afraid to look, frankly.
No, don't worry. I don't think you're alone in that at all. I was having a conversation last week with Ella. Like, everybody goes back and reads their first article or listens to their first podcast, and it's almost like scrub that everywhere you possibly can. If you don't remember your first article that you wrote, then what's the first article that you remember writing or remember being proud of even?
I had this tendency to do crossover pieces. So I used to write horror. And so I did this piece for Daily DT that I was super proud of that compared heels to horror villains. So that was really fun.
That's fun. Sorry, I'm Warren. You're popping me in the comments, you jerk. Question for Kristen: why do the Packers suck, and why is this the truth?
Warren doesn't even know anything about football.
I would assume then the Packers are your team. I would have to assume then.
Yeah, they are.
How are you feeling on all the Aaron Rodgers stuff?
I don't want to talk about it.
All right, we will leave that alone. Sam, good to see you, friend. How are we doing tonight? I'm doing great. I hope Kristen is the same here on The Mind Behind. Kevin hopping in. How is it working for the PWI? We're going to jump around a bit. Why not? Let's get to the fan questions early. Maybe answer that question and then how the opportunity came about to work for them.
Well, yeah. So actually, when they tell you to shoot your shot, do it, because it almost always works out. I had seen PWI. They were tweeting out about the women's 100 that was starting up. And I just tweeted at them and said, hey, I want to help. How can I help? And then I got a DM from their editor who said, we're looking for, we'd love to have you on the rankings team. Come on out. And I did. And I just kept pitching ideas to Kevin over and over and over again. And yeah.
Now, without giving too much away, I know you don't want to spoil the ballot or anything like that, but is there maybe somebody on the women's 100 this year that you felt should have been bumped up substantially, if a couple?
That's hard, actually. You mean the one from the last year?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
list? Oof. I don't know. I agreed with the top 10, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had to bump up anybody, it would be anybody on the NXT UK roster.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I fought pretty hard to get a lot of them in. But I think, like, why is Ginny not in the top 20, frankly? And I understand she doesn't have a title, but those women deserve to be way up there.
Well, and I know you've got a soft spot and you've done some great interviews with a couple of them. Again, I think that came from shooting your shot, just even in the conversations you and I have had in the DMs. But for anybody tuning in who rightfully so isn't privy to private conversations, maybe let them know how those opportunities came about for you.
For the interviews, I, again, shoot my shot. I went to WWE Corporate, the website. You go and you just find the email address to email. And I did. And typically with WWE, you either don't hear from them, which means no, or you do. And so it was like a month after I sent the email, and I was just lying around on my couch, and I got the email from the one of the PR guys for the UK person, for the UK talent, and they said, we'd love to give you one. And then I just built a really good relationship with that guy. And now I just email back and forth with him. So hopefully we'll have some more soon. They're kind of in the works. So
that's good to hear. And of course, we'll let you plug your social media, because not only on that end of things, I know you've got so much going on, but back on that end, like you've mentioned Ginny even already a couple of times. What specifically has drawn you to her?
Her character work is insane. Like, it's so good. I mean, she's been around. She's an incredible wrestler, like everybody on NXT UK. It really is. But her character work and how just kind of evil she gets, but how sweet she really is, that always kind of gets me when they can completely transform into another person. And her mic work is phenomenal. I mean, she's an all-rounder. I mean, she's an amazing wrestler, but she's also just, character-wise, she's made for that division, for sure.
You mentioned it earlier, but like, why do you think that the NXT UK division is so underrated? Because I think everybody's pretty, like, it's almost weird for me. Everybody talks about Kaylee Ray. Everybody knows she's great. Everybody talks about Miko. They know she's great. But it almost feels like when you talk about the entire division, it's like, oh yeah, but you've got to look at the other ones. So give me the sales pitch for NXT UK's women's division.
The thing is that they've all fought each other outside of the UK. And most of these women have been in Stardom. They have been, like Kaylee Ray, for instance, had an incredible couple appearances for Impact. I mean, insane intergender wrestling, hardcore deathmatch wrestling. I mean, these women have been around. And so I think the problem with any division for WWE is that they don't give them those opportunities. And the show's only an hour long. So when you have a men's and a women's division, it's only an hour long. It's in the middle of the day for the US. You're not going to get a lot of viewers. But, I encourage people to go and search for them outside of NXT UK, because that's really where a lot of these women have really shined, for sure.
Yeah, and Ed hopping in, agreeing with you as well, because when a smart point's made, we tend to agree with them, because people don't watch enough of UK to see how talented the rest of the division is on a week-to-week basis. Yeah. An astute point, just as this one is from you, Mags. Kristen is definitely a multi-talented star in these wrestling streets. Yeah, the wrestling streets is never the way I've heard it described. I've heard of the road to WrestleMania, but never like Wrestling Boulevard, I suppose. Ray versus Niven forever. Yeah. It's one of those things where just, yes, I don't need to sing the praises as far as that one goes. I mentioned off the bat, like, quite literally, you've written from pretty well a who's who of professional wrestling sites. You've done well on them before. It's a daunting task to start a wrestling website, and especially one like when you start to narrow down to women's wrestling, hardcore wrestling, start to take away from even just the general scope of wrestling.
Yeah.
What inspired the foundation, or the founding, of Bell to Bells?
Well, frankly, I was the editor-in-chief at Diva Dirt for a while.
Mhm.
And, if I'm being honest, I wasn't, in love with how they were portraying some of the women,
Mhm.
or what I was being told I had to write. And I really loved my writers, I loved my staff, I loved the job itself. Of course, they have a huge reach, so it gave me a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and I'm grateful for that. But
Mhm.
they were asking me to write some sort of stuff that I wasn't comfortable writing, rag stuff, right? Gossip.
Almost like
Um,
your traditional dirt sheet, quote unquote
but
stuff.
like, stuff about Corey Graves and Carmela when it turned out that
Okay,
that was
yeah.
not even real, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because they were, the owner has investors, so they're required to get a certain amount of clicks and views. Well, I wasn't comfortable with that, and I knew as just a human being who's written online for a while that the only way I was gonna be able to write really what I wanted to without condition was just to write for myself. So that's what I did. I wrote for myself, and, actually, my friend Lauren, who is the co-founder of Lauren Found, she really poked at me for a good month. I didn't wanna do it because I was, like, so exhausted from writing and editing people's stuff, and, she kept poking, and, finally I said, "Okay, let's do this," and then we wrangled Warren in, and so, yeah, that's how that started.
You've wrangled Warren in more ways than one. Just tell me about Warren. I asked him the same thing in the very very same exact open landscape. Tell me about Warren. I mean, maybe that's a loaded question considering the Packers earlier, but
Um, Me and Warren met, at Daily DDT. We both wrote there, and oh god, he says,
Warren with oh god.
"I'll be nice. This is recorded, I'll be nice." Um, so, yeah, so we met there, and they have I don't know if you've heard of Slack or if any of you use
Yep.
Slack, but they have that at Fansided, and there's these public channels for all the sites, and there were some people on there that were obnoxiously, like, self-promoting themselves. So, randomly, I don't even know how it started. We started messaging each other about these people and just kind of like, I know it sounds super mean. We're revealing all of our secrets, but kind of just poking fun at these people. And then a friendship came from that. And, he invited me on his show for his first guest, and that was really cool. And we, obviously we're engaged, but
Yeah.
I think a cool thing about us is that we really do um, push each other professionally, and we make each other do things that maybe we're not incredibly comfortable with, but causes growth, and that's great.
Yeah, you have to push those boundaries, right? And ties in nicely the goose hopping in. Have you ever had the itch to become a performer yourself, whether that be by donning the tights and working, or taking on a non physical role like announcing, commentary, backstage interviewing, or managing?
That's a good question, actually. I've always thought about being a manager. I will not probably wrestle. I'm mid 30s. I don't work out. I like
Yeah.
junk food too much. But a non-physical role. I don't think I have an announcing voice, but I always wanted to try doing managing or something backstage. I always thought that would be really neat. I'm trying to kind of clip my way into design and graphics and stuff. But I think like I've always had this like dream of having like this stable of women for AEW, just bringing in some indie women and like managing them. I think that'd be really neat.
Heel manager Kristen Ashley, you heard it here
Mhm.
first. Ella J popping in. Hello, friend. Good to see you. If you
Well,
guys are tuned in on YouTube, you guys can go and catch the replay from our chat last week. That was a Friday special edition. And let me tell you, it was certainly special to not be cheesy with it. Always a blast. And of course, Mr. Warren Hayes to definitely be a little bit cheesy because I just know him. I can say
mhm.
without a shadow of a doubt, I wouldn't be doing half of what I do without Kristen.
Uh,
JPQ excited too. Woo! KA
thank
on
you.
Twitch and Ella J. What guest that you've interviewed do you think has had the most powerful story?
Ooh, that's a good
I
question.
like that one.
And I'm sorry if I'm looking. I never know where to look on these things, so I'm sorry if it looks
Don't
like.
worry, you and I both. So that's why I just sort of like
Oh,
gaze fawningly.
um, I think you can back me up on this with when I say Lufisto.
Oh yeah.
I talked to Lufisto quite a bit. I've interviewed her a few different times for different pieces. it would be a tie between Lufisto and Mercedes Martinez. And Mercedes was just via email with like a written, just like a couple quotes I pulled from her. But she's got a really interesting story, and she's actually helped me in journalistic ways. And I won't tell exactly what that is, but she actually helped me research the story that I had building, and offered to do that. And Lufisto's story is always astounding to me. I mean, she's just, anytime you talk to a veteran at all, that's really like the best interview.
Oh, anything. And like, it sounds bad, obviously, to say it's interesting getting this stuff on the CZW end, but hearing on that, how she's going up against the OAC years ago, like stories galore, right? Sam, hopping in. Do you have a favorite horsewoman? And what would be your favorite match of hers? I guess whoever you would pick.
I am a proud member of the Sasha Stan Army. So thank you for bringing up that.
Virtual hug. Virtual hug. I've got her. We had the conversation the other day. I would have to, like, it's always one A, one B, one C, but I'll put Sasha in that one for me.
I mean, right now Bailey is very close.
Yeah.
And it used to be Becky, but I've always just incredibly loved Sasha. And I mean, come on, match of hers versus Bailey at Brooklyn. Like, there's just no other. You can't mention any other match.
No, like, and you can't say they haven't tried that Hell in a Cell match. Last year. COVID time screws up years, but last year was absolutely fantastic too. If you look at that and say they didn't try and outdo Brooklyn, you'd be lying. But yeah, I'd be going in Brooklyn as well. Yeah. Mr. Warren Hayes, who would win in a fight, Jason or Michael Myers?
Jason, I guess, because Jason's technically proven to be the undead, whereas Michael Myers just fakes his death. He's never actually died and came back, where Jason has.
I like that. I like because he's been to space. I like it.
That too.
JPQ, what Western women's wrestler? I don't know if you were just trying to trip me up with a lot of W's in a row, but you didn't. What Western women's wrestler would you like to see tour Japan, maybe show up on Stardom?
Trisha Dora. Trisha Dora can do everything, and I just would love to see, because she's such a powerhouse. And she does all the tricks too, but she's such a powerhouse, and I'd love to see how she stacks up to that Stardom roster, because they're tough. Those women train, but I know Trisha Dora could handle it, so that'd be an interesting mix.
You've got obviously a lot of experience with the women on the independent scene. Are there any that you would feel like, not even specifically going out east, but are there any that you just feel are, like, as cliche as it sounds, poised for a big 2021 or even 2022? Yeah. We're 5 months into the year. Isn't that nuts? Oh, getting old sucks. Moving on. Let's talk about things we like. Let's talk about wrestling.
Yeah, indeed. Well, of course, like I said, Trisha Dora. I've known that Willow Nightingale has been phenomenal since day one. But, since she broke away from WOW, from Women of Wrestling, she's been doing a lot more indie shows now. And so now we all get to see how great she is. So Willow Nightingale is the two of them are made for television. And frankly, I'm not sure why Lainey Luck hasn't been picked up. I mean, her gimmick, her work.
Like, I'm sure you watched that Fatal 4-Way that ROH did, I guess, 3 weeks ago at this point, and like all of them looked great. How have you felt about that tournament itself so far? Not the tournament, I guess, but the introduction of Women's Division Wednesday. And don't worry, Ella, Sam, I see your questions in there, but this is a conversational format. I like talking to my friends. We'll get to questions too, I promise.
Thanks for the questions, though. That's awesome. People care what I say. That's weird. First off, it's great. We gave AW a lot of crap because of the YouTube stuff, but that's because they had a cable show. So the fact that the women even get, the one match, I wish it was more, but that's because I'm greedy. So, I'm glad that Maria Kanellis has taken the step in and doing this. I'm happy that somebody was like, because it's been needed for quite some time. It's been like this running joke that WOH has been horrible.
Yeah.
Not horrible. The women haven't been horrible, but it's been horribly managed.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that. The backfires with it last year. It's certainly not been easy waters, I suppose.
No, and so now we get to see people like Lainey and Trish and Roxy and all these people who are coming up, and I mean that's all you can really ask for. It's just opportunities for them.
Right. Now, thank you for the cheers. Gotta say that first. It's appreciated, friends. And if you guys are tuned in on Twitch, well, by no means are you guys obligated to throw money, cheers, bits, subscriptions, anything like that our way. If you want to, it is always encouraged. It is always appreciated, just as your questions are. And I am going to pull from, as I mentioned, Ella, what's one hobby or passion you have that not many know about?
I tend to share my whole entire life online. I like to paint. I don't know if you can see it. This over here. There's paints.
Oh, cool.
I also
I was gonna say I like to paint, but I would never admit it because I'm bad at it.
I'm like a mediocre crafter, I guess I would say would be my thing, my hobby. Like I have this whole, you can't see it, but I have this whole table right here full of all this craft stuff. Like I make soap, I paint, I make cards, I do all kinds of stuff, and I'm like barely good at it. Like not enough to do anything with it, but like just, and I don't get to do it enough, frankly. But
Trust
I
me,
was.
your barely good is better than my shitty.
But it's my stuff, and I'm not selling it, so who cares, right?
Fair point, friend. Out of the horsewoman, said Sam, who would you like to see outside of WWE?
I would probably say Charlotte because she's the only one that hasn't been outside of WWE. She's homegrown. We won't start on that convo, but she's homegrown. So it would be really interesting to see what she would do outside
the
of
Charlotte Flair indie run. Like that is on par in the weirdest of ways for me. Like I'm just hoping and praying. Everybody's talking about Daniel Bryan, the free agent. Like it ain't ever gonna happen. I want a Brock Lesnar Ring of Honor appearance one of these days, and that's all I'm gonna leave it at that because someone's like probably virtually throwing something at me right now. Goose hopping in from the earlier comment with Warren. I was in a battle royal with Michael Myers. Dude was tough, but ultimately Vinny Fever ended up winning. So there's the real answer. Reese, good to see you, friend. I enjoyed the stream this morning, so thank you for hopping in on the Love Wrestling side of things. Always good to see you. Former Quizplex champion. Excuse me, Reese, I must stress that. Who are your favorite women from the UK? I think Danny Luna is going to be a huge star.
Danny Luna is going to be a huge star. Let's see. Okay. So I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but I'm also in love with Nina Samuels. Nina Samuels is another one who I think if they're to pull anybody from NXT UK right now besides Kaylee Ray to come to NXT, it should be Nina Samuels. I mean, she's camera good. She is good, and she's like set for a gimmick for the US. I mean, she's incredible. Millie McKenzie.
Great show.
She's so young still. I mean, insane talent. Like all of them.
I know she's like I know she's signed with NXT, but have they even announced that yet?
NXT UK?
Like, is that have they announced?
Yeah, she's been on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, that's my own. That's what I'm saying earlier. We both need to get caught up with it. Here's the question I've got for you. I guess a bit of a two-parter. So, number one, do you think that the woman who is going to beat Kaylee Ray is currently signed to NXT UK? And if she is, who is it?
I would say Miko Satomura, but I feel like they're just keeping her in the run because you almost have to. Like, she is the final boss, and they call her the final boss. So she has to stay in the run, but I'm not sure that she'll ever take the belt because she's a veteran, and they're probably going to try to push newer stars.
Yeah.
If anyone's going to take the belt, I think it's going to be Ginny or Valkyrie, actually.
Good.
Yeah.
Call. Ella hopping in. Brock and Ring of Honor would be a shock. You know what? You want to talk about another match I would pay good money to see? Brock versus Miko. Brie Peasley has signed for NXT UK, allegedly. I had not heard that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I know there were a lot of people who thought she'd come back to AEW, but I'm not sure that that's what she wants to do. So I'm not surprised. Yeah.
I cannot comment on that. Like I said, I found out. Thank you for the comment, Mags. I learned something new here on the stream as we have been doing this entire time with Kristen, the founder of Bell to Bells. We've got about 5 minutes, friends. So if you guys have your comments, your questions, your concerns, hopefully you don't. And if you do, I'm sure they're all directed at me because well, feel free to share them. I'm just certain again that they are all for me. It's a question I asked Ella last week. It's a question I love asking anybody. We've talked about NXT UK and what makes them a great women's division, but who do you feel, honestly, when it all is laid out in front of you, has the best women's division in wrestling right now?
Impact, frankly. And NXT UK is close, but it's because they have NXT UK has a few newer women where Impact, it's all been like the same women forever. They're so incredibly talented, and it's awesome they let them work the indies still too, because then we get to see them. Like I've met some of the Impact women, and I mean they're incredible. They really are incredible, and I'm glad that they're getting some spots now on TV that make sense, that people can actually see and tune into, and that they've got more programming for us, because frankly they deserve all the attention that they're getting. Absolutely.
Completely agree. Like, obviously for wildly different reasons, but like if you had told me 2 years ago that the Impact women's division would be better than ever after Tessa Blanchard and Taya Valkyrie leave, like nothing against the women they had then by any means, but I would have called you crazy. Like they're two of the biggest stars, at least at that time, in professional wrestling. And like you said, it's absolutely insane. And it's incredible you get to have that conversation, right? It's not just, well, it's very obviously one promotion.
Right.
JPQ hopping in. Thoughts on Mission Pro? Super solid, in my opinion.
I'll tell you. You can hear it here first, I guess. So I have a new column for PWI. It's called the W column. And the first one, I'm not sure if they said they're going to release it early tomorrow, but Thursday. So make sure you get that digital edition, will be my first. But the second column that I just finished is actually on Mission Pro. So I talked to Ponderosa for like the 30th time. To the point where I have her cell phone number because I talked to her so much.
That's so cool.
Well,
it's almost like surreal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, speaking of Lufisto, like we quite literally share a Crave account because we both want to watch Drag Race.
Right.
Talk about surreal.
Wealth of knowledge. And so the second one's actually going to be on Mission Pro and how they're helping women's wrestling. I mean, the stuff that she's doing, she's working really hard. She's trying to get people over to Japan, apparently. They're trying to
very cool
funds for that, and they're aiming for TV. So the way she's hiring the women, the way that she's pushing them, I guess, or, getting them ready for other promotions. I mean, it's all professional development. It's really cool.
Absolutely. Sam hopping in as well. Do you have a favorite early NXT women's match outside of Sasha Bailey at Brooklyn?
What was the one with, oh God, I look so dumb in women's wrestling, right?
Don't worry. It's one of those things where, like, when you get asked a question, you have to try and rack your brain. It gets overwhelming because, like, even now I'm vamping as I inevitably try and think of mine.
And to be completely honest, I'm a contemporary wrestling fan, so I came in right around Brooklyn, and that's like the first NXT women's match I ever watched. So I've gone back. The one, I can't remember which takeover, but Becky versus Sasha. That was really good because it was really when Becky came out with, I think she had like the new gear and the new song and stuff, and the crowd was really into her during that match. And it was sort of Becky's like home. It was like her homecoming. It was like her showcase match. And you're gonna have an amazing one with Sasha. So I think it was Sasha.
Yeah, of course you're going to. LOJ hopping in as well. Jamie Hayter to NXT would make me pop.
Jamie's trying. I'll tell you. Jamie and I talked to, and Jamie's trying really hard to do the Stardom work, but like with New Japan, when they do the Wrestle Kingdom. So I mean, Jamie Hayter is incredible. Agreed.
I couldn't agree more with you. And we've brought up a lot of people throughout the chat. And one of my favorite things I've been doing to close out the shows is just give an open platform. Again, just if there's someone you feel should be recognized, whether it's a wrestler, a content creator, someone close to you, whatever it may be, it is the shout someone out. One of my favorite shows is called Putting You Over. So I can't take their branding because they've just got damn good branding. So shout someone out. I got to think of a better name for the segment, but Give me a good person.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna do two because I feel like I have to do Warren, because he's also in the chat being weird, but also because I know
It's the obligatory shout out.
but also because he shouted out me, so I would look like a jerk if I again, like he mentioned the chat before, like we push each other. I wouldn't even probably still be with Bell to Bells or have Bell to Bells if it wasn't for his help. He's really stepped up a lot and helped me out with quite a bit. And so like most of my like pretty much anything that I've done for podcasting and our videos, he's been like my producer because I'm so stupid with it. So there wouldn't be a Bell to Bells without him. But I'm also going to shout out Ella J. And I did it yesterday or earlier today on Twitter, but Ella J is taking over. She's doing so many interviews, so many different people. She's got like 20 million jobs. She's like up for 16 hours. I was telling Warren J, up for like 16 million hours doing 12 interviews. And I'm like, I do 3 hours of work and I complain, like she's got the, the motivation, and that's really important right away. When you first start out the first couple of years to keep that going. So she's already getting really great interviews. She's only going to go up.
Completely agree. I haven't checked it out. It is on my listening for tonight. But like seeing you interview Giselle Shaw, she has quite literally been on my dream list for years. Storm grad, Albertan homegrown. I have a soft spot for good Canadians. And I've got a soft spot for great people in professional wrestling like Kristen Ashley. Kristen, it has been great to have you on. I am proud to call you a friend. Thank you so much for the time. If people want to continue to support you, support Bell to Bells, and support great people involved with what you do, how can they continue to?
Well, I'm proud to be your friend, and thank you for doing this series. I've been trying to do something sort of similar with women, but this is a great series. It gives a little inside look, and it makes us feel special. So thank you, friend. Twitter is where you can find most of my stuff at Kristen Ashley. It's spelled just like that. And then Bell to Bells, at Bell to Bells. Keep an eye out for PWI stuff. We have amazing stuff coming that I'm trying really hard to keep tight. In fact, I just got news for something else today from the editor, and I'm like, it's like clawing at me. I really want to like announce it, but I can't because I will get fired. And then obviously go to Bell.
That's not what we're here for. We're here to support, not take jobs away.
Yes. Bell to Bells, women's wrestling. That's how you can support me is by watching women's wrestling, because then I have stuff to cover. So do that.
Absolutely, friends. I highly suggest doing it. Wrestling plug hopping in. Warren, you guys are adorable. I don't disagree whatsoever. Warren is the best. Warren #1 because he says things like this. Yeah, Kristen rules. Hi, Kristen. I love you. Everybody should. Doing great work for the wrestling community. Ella J, love the chat with Kristen. Cheers to Bell to Bells. I will 100% finish this coffee and grab myself a proper cheersing beverage. I can guarantee that one to you guys. Thank you for hopping in. I'm certain I will see you later on tonight. Thank you for the support a little earlier on as well. And of course, this was a good stream, you guys. You want to talk about heartwarming ways to end a show? That is how you do it. Friends, thank you guys once again for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow. We've got some special guests coming up this week that you got to stay tuned to social media for. We're going to be back on Friday. I don't know, to be honest with you, if I'm on the NXT post show tonight, but there will be right back here on Love Wrestling, our NXT post show Love Wrestling Reacts. That'll be taking place right after the closing bell, the closing segment, the closing, however, tonight's edition of the Black and Yellow brand closes. So stay tuned. We will see you guys a little later on tonight. Now, if you guys are watching on Facebook and YouTube, you guys are going to hear our music. If you guys are tuned in on Twitch, why not? There's a brand new channel that's Slipknot rated. So if you guys like metal, that's where we're going. We'll see you guys there. I'll see you there. And if you're elsewhere, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in, friends. We'll catch you on the next one.